we're back again. Alright, so what I've done off screen there is to run that last stitch, and then I went out to the sander and just trued up that edge a little bit. Again, taking your time, sending that knife, even putting a piece of sandpaper down flat and just going, back and forth and flattening that edge is all you need to do there. So now we're going to finish that up. Oh, you know what I didn't do, and that's fine. I kind of wanted to show this again, is run the overstitching needle. Now, again, this stitch, the inside stitch here, hasn't been gone over again. The outside stitch has. You saw me do that. Just taking some of that extra wax out of that spot there. So, the inside stitch has not been done. Again, be very, very, very careful here. You don't want to run onto your leather at this point. We're so close to being done. In fact, this is one of the last tools we're going to run over the darn sheath. And so, what you see me doing when I rock is I'm touching I'm stopping this from moving so that I can really control it one stitch at a time, one or two stitches at a time, and I rock it back. It's like I'm ratcheting down the sheath there. And see how that just trues everything up and looks really, really pretty. Seeing if that is a stitch line or a piece of glue. And back this way. Those corners where I really want to slow down, so I use it as kind of a brake. My finger, it kind of doesn't feel great, but you kind of get used to that after a while. And then right there, you hear how the leather is kind of creaking? Leather just kind of creaks. That's just what it does. And there it is. That's stitched now, so you can see front to back how pristine that is, or it's as pristine as I can get it currently with my skill set. So I'm very pleased with this sheath, and the fact that I did it, on camera, is cool. Without any, oh my God, I need to reshoot this because I screwed it all up. So just wiping this down again. Now we're ready to test our sheath for the first time. Look down there. See, the dye, it just disappears. The stitch line is gone. So ready to put our knife in our sheath for the first time. Be very careful inserting it the first time, especially if this has been tipped off or whatever and it hasn't quite straightened out. What you don't want to do is push the knife to the outside of the sheath. Don't ask me how I know that. So carefully feeding it in. It will bottom out on you. And there we are. So that looks almost exactly, our drop loop is a tiny bit higher, but I adjusted that out in the garage. That's going to ride nice on the belt. Nothing's going to grab that and knock at it and pull at it or things like this. But also we've got two fingers we can get on this blade. One goes here, pushes, and although that sheath is fully retained, that's going nowhere. That's just a friction fit, and it's going nowhere right now. And it hasn't even been wet formed. That comes out only when you want it to, which is what a sheath should do. It should protect the end user and protect the knife. All right, so I sanded that a bit out there. We're going to grab our 400 grit and knock that out. We're going to start a little bit damp. We're getting ready to dye this too, so a little damp on this edge just prepares that leather. Now, one thing to watch out for here is when you're sanding back, especially in the higher grits, make sure that all the glue is off of this edge. This was a trouble spot and it's come off, but all the glue needs to come off this edge. The more, any glue on there, again, is going to resist the dye and it's not going to look right. So we're sanding this back now. It's already it's kind of starting to grab and stick, so that shines right up. We had a really good edge going right away. That's a trouble spot though. It's still a little bit of a trouble spot. So we're going to go back down to grit to like 220. And true that up just a little bit. Just take it down. Make sure no glue is in between those creases. Let's go back to 400 and see if that did it. Not quite. There. I think that was the last bastion. Sometimes you get it that just gets on the outside. Again, more careful gluing. So make sure that that is good to go. Oh, a little more still here. Sorry about the length here at this point, but again, I'm trying to show you everything. You see the little problems as we go along. There, I think, I said that before though, so let's double check. Decent piece of 400. Yep, we got it. I can just tell if that line is still there, and now it is a leather line, not a black glue line, and I'm going to have trouble. So I'll go back in here. I had to true that up, so I have to now re-edge that. What you're looking for here is when you get done for this to look like a solid piece. If you think about it, this is the outside of the cow when it was alive. And this is now the inside. And of course, the outside is going to be tougher than the inside. So you want to burnish this to protect it off. Back to our saddle soap. I think I'll get like 10 years out of this can because I don't use it like saddle soap. You know, it's supposed to be clean, a cleaning product. It's basically glycerin, so maybe with some additives, I'm not sure. Has a little polish to it. I think mainly what that does though is prepare those fibers, soften those fibers a little bit, to condition those fibers, I should say. Add a little liquid to it for the edge burnishing process that sets it up. Where is my, there it is. It's a chunk of jeans from my wife's old jeans before they went and were donated. I grabbed them and cut them all up. I say that, I think I cut them up and used a lot of it for my carta I was making once. Yeah, we got good looking line here. That's actually getting a little bit yucky. I need to throw that away. It's got too much saddle soap on it. Grab that and get it away from the printing on that shirt. So we're almost there. There. Boom. See how, okay, so let's go back and look at our, right? See how much more tan that is? I mean, that's the dyed part. This isn't dyed at all. It's just gotten tan from being burnished. Okay. Okay, so we are at, this is all stitched, this is all done. When I sanded that out there, I used the sander like an edge beveler, so I don't need to edge bevel that now. It's not catching, there's nothing to sand there. But if you don't have that and you use your edge beveler, don't forget to use that. Knock that back. We've got it down, sewed, clean, pristine, everything's looking good. This is pristine and looking good. We just have to do the edges now, and they're now mostly burnished. We're going to do it one more once over with another little product. Probably unnecessary, but you can see what we're going to do. Spot there. And good. Should have gloves on here, but I'm not going to get up and get them. Rebel, rebel, YOLO. Should punch myself in the face for saying that. Like a 12-year-old girl. Someone actually said that in my direction the other day and meant it. I was like, whatevs, WTF. Alright. Dyeing the edge. But just going to be careful, just going to only get on the edge. Although if you did wrap around a little bit, it's okay. What you don't want though is on your stitches. It will come off mostly down the road because it has wax on it, and that's going to act as a resist too. But it's going to look like butt. Right when you get done, you want to take pictures of it. Even if it's yours, you want to share it with friends or whatever you do. In my case, I take a picture and I send the confirmation to the customer, and I want that stitch to be pristine. I want it to be right. I want him to screw it up out in the field, but I want him to get this sheath and have it look as good as it's going to look. That's why we use the protective coat. There, that's putting it on fatter now. set that down. Again, this is going to take some muscle memory for you because I've kind of just learned the touch to get around there and not go too far. That worked pretty much ideally there. Got just on where I wanted it and darkened right up. Again, that saddle soap is going to resist a little bit. That's why we're putting a couple more coats on, just trying to get it to soak through. That can be set aside now. Back to this one, that's soaked in. We're just going to kind of keep this up. I end up doing quite a few coats, just back and forth, letting it soak in, going around the band, going here to set up the dark edges. Just putting on a couple more coats here, letting these dry in between. Now this has been done, so we can, and this is where it's where we want it. Let me close this up. I'm just going to use up what's in the wool dauber right now. I'll put that down in the fan, which is right next to me, and we'll use this gum tragacanth. Honestly, tan coat does quite nice edges. I'm just so used to using this. Now, what the heck is gum tragacanth? I didn't even know. I had to look it up. It is a natural product. It is from a tree, various trees, that you get the gum from that tree. Now, in Mexico, when they were doing their leather early on, this is what they used for their sealants. But it essentially is like a paste. It's like I said, it's gum from a tree. So a lot of pastes that we use today that are natural, like Elmer's type of glue, although I'm not sure if that might be a bone glue, but I doubt it. I think that's a vegetable base, are made from the gum or portions of plants. So I'm just dipping my fingers in that. You can do that on a cloth if you don't like. It's like snot. It's just not nice, but it does what it needs to do for these edges. I'm just wiping this on, and then I'm going to let that, once that's got a really good coat of gum tragacanth, I'm going to let that dry nearly completely. So you notice how I sort of, to keep my process going, I do one thing, then another, coming back while the other is drying. So, and again, when I've got multiple sheaths going, I'll do an edge here with the dye, reach down, grab another one, do the edge, and by the time my fan sits right in front of a crate that has it's a rack, a drying rack. All right, so anyway, it dries off and I get to the next step. That was my point there. Finish my thought. Okay, so we got the gum tragacanth on and it's basically dried. And I'm just going to rub that back. And gum tragacanth leaves a high sheen, and that is an edge that looks right. Okay, should be nothing coming off the sheath at this point. This should all be sealing for the most part. Gum tragacanth will come off a little bit in your rag, but not much. One thing that also works to burnish is to use that horn. I don't use it much anymore, but if I need to round an edge or whatever, add some good compression, I'll do it with an antler, I should say, not a horn, because that's not a horn. Horns are on cows, antlers deers have. And then let me get one more coat to this. Yeah, we're almost there. I actually have come to like the smell of tan coat. Got kind of an odd smell. I don't have no clue what's in it. Could be pixie dust for all I know, but now I'm going to give that whole dangler a coat, and also this full sheath is going to get a couple coats. So will this dangler in this process to seal everything off. Now, if this cloth were actually clean, nothing would be coming off. The tan coat has sealed it the first time, and now putting a pretty liberal amount on here, or a generous amount for you conservatives out there. I heard a guy on YouTube the other day wouldn't even say the word liberal. I want to say liberal. That's pretty funny. Couldn't even bring himself to say it. He had to say generous. I thought that was pretty funny. All right, that's good. Getting a little tacky, so we're going to put that down. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, so I'm just going to rub this off because this is already a little bit dirty. This has tan coat on it. You can see how much came off there. But yeah, that edge looks good now. So, switch over. And again, fairly liberal amount. So I've done with the gum tragacanth. Oh, no, I'm not. That's not true. I put gum tragacanth on the dangler. Just put a little bit of tan coat on there, which is fine. You know what? Let's just compare the two. I'll rub this back. I find that tan coat gives more of a mellow shine as I drop the sheath. Gives more of a mellow shine, but not much. You know, that's pretty good. Pretty much a high burnish. One thing that a lot of guys do at the very, very end is they'll rub down with beeswax their edges. I know a guy, Skystorm, does all beeswax edges. That's just what works for him. There's automatic burnishers out there. I've got one in my garage that I can chuck up on my drill press. Let me grab a new piece of jean material here. I just find that I enjoy the process. So look at that, dude. That's why you use beeswax. If you want that sort of high shine, I only want it on my edges. I don't want the whole thing to be shiny, although some sheaths look great shiny. This is a bushcrafter sheath. It doesn't need to be, you know, these people are not high shiny by nature. So there it is, man. That edge, if we go back and we look at the ugly edge, right? That's pretty pristine. That's as good as I can do right now. So I'm very, very happy with that. But I still haven't sealed that down, the whole sheath. I did seal, you know, a preliminary coat. I know it's sealed in behind there, right? So I'm going to give it a big old once over with tan coat. What about the inside of the sheath, Diametics Industries? Well, I understand that. I'll show you how we're going to do that. We first want to get a decent little coat going. I keep on grabbing dirty spots of this thing here. Get a decent coat of this going. Yeah, tan coat always pulls a little bit of color off, but it's going to seal in the rest. This is the rough side of that leather as well. I'll probably use gum tragacanth on the back of there to lay those fibers down, and because it's a little glue-like, to paste them down, and they'll stay down. Gum tragacanth will also, or excuse me, tan coat will also put a kind of a one coat darker on your sheath. Okay, so what about the inside of your sheath? Well, that's why this is in a spray bottle. Good liberal coat. Generous coat. Back and forth, all the way back up and down my welt there, down the sheath. I can see it actually pooling up in the bottom there. So what I know is going on is that I'm sealing this thing as it's stitched shut, right? And I'm just going to keep rolling that around, letting it seal in, and wipe out some. And then of course, I then pour it back on my rag. I quite often will do the inside first, pour it back onto my rag, and then use the extra until it just starts going tacky. Get a couple, 2-3 good coats on there. Yep, there's a little more. Another Chuck Burrows trick. I was doing things quite differently. There was not a problem with what I was doing, but I like this way. I like the idea of it being sealed shut. I just think that it's really a superior way to seal the inside of your sheath. I could use gum tragacanth on this to lay this down. I'm going to use, of course, tan coat, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm getting behind there. Although I did seal in behind there, you know, I know that a couple of coats, and I think you can overdo this with tan coat, but a couple of coats is a good thing. That should be it. Yep, it is. All right, so that is sealed. Let me give it a little bit more on this outside, and then we're going to let that dry. Notice how we got another layer, kind of another shade of darkness. That will back off a little bit. That will lighten up a little bit. Let me put this away now. This is, by the way, why I keep the rubber band on there. Those wool daubers can be used quite a few times until you have to replace them. I just keep it on there so I know which one is what color. See why I go through old t-shirts. Kind of nasty. The more you wipe down a sheath after you dye it, the less you're going to get off the sheath later. Again, it's a suspension, so it's coming off. But I find that tan coat takes it off and then seals it. So if I were to let that completely dry and then put another layer of tan coat on it, it would not. No more is going to come off. And we're there, man. We've got it. Now we haven't put the dangler on yet. And I still want to use a little bit of gum tragacanth. Tragacanth? Yeah, gum tragacanth. I tend to mispronounce words that I've never heard said until I read it really carefully. Let's let that dry. And while this is drying, as I'm sealing this all up and I'm about ready to slick that up. Now it's going to probably get a little fuzzy. It's the downside of doing a sheath this way, of how to sheath this way. Because when you flip the belt loop over, you have the rough side out. What you could have done is flip this, cut it here and sewn on a loop, but I can't get a good drop loop that way, and I like these. I also like that it's not stitched. I think this is stronger. That's my thinking. I might not be correct in that. I've not been proven wrong, meaning I haven't seen one break, but I've also never seen one that was stitched break, so who knows. I'm grabbing a D-ring here and a Chicago screw. Here's the length I want. Okay. Here's our dangler, which ended up the right color, as far as I'm concerned. Hopefully it looks right on there. On the screen, I know sometimes that changes a little bit. It looks right to me. I mean, I'm colorblind, but no. Alright, so there's our Chicago screw. Now, your Chicago screw, it can be of various lengths. This one is, let's check. 3/8? Yep, 3/8, which is what I thought I grabbed. Sometimes I'll do a half. If I know a person wears a really big fat belt, and I ask a lot of weird questions of my customers, what kind of belt do you wear? It sounds like I'm like, what are you wearing right now? If I know they wear a big fat belt, I want to make sure I give room for that, right? Most people don't. So a 3/8 leaves enough room for this to go through and this piece to screw onto here properly. I have one little flathead here in my, two actually flatheads in my little caddy for just this, for just such an occasion, for just this process. Tighten that down. It's still going to be a little damp, but that's okay. That Chicago screw is going to set now for me. I find that it holds the Chicago screw shut. Holds everything shut. A little bit of Loctite on there though, or even super glue, will finish that off for you. Okay, this is a removable D-ring. It's actually not a D-ring. It's actually a replacement briefcase handle thingy. But I love it for this. It's probably the only thing that I've done that's unique to the sheath making world is bring those in from the outside. A lot of people order them now, so they seem to like them. There is a weakness there though, in that it has a clevis so that it can come open on you. Loctite of course will stop that. I've only heard one case of the D-ring coming open, and it was not on one of my sheaths, but it was on a person who used my idea, which is great. I give all that away. Use my idea. There's the other screwdriver to add a dangler. So I'm tighten this down. And that's it, kids. From beginning to end, that sheath is complete. Now it's going to need to dry at least overnight. I try to give it 2 full days before I do much, but at this point you can do something that's really kind of unique if you are making this sheath. We haven't wet formed it yet, but remember we just soaked down this inside and we soaked down the outside, okay? So it's damp right now. What you can do for the first night is take the knife that you want it to fit, wrap it in one layer of cellophane or blue painter's tape. I tend to use cellophane now. and insert it into this knife, set it in front of your fan, or you don't need a fan, but set it down to dry, and then just let it dry. Coming back every little bit to pinch down. See how that's wet forming around? You don't want to go crazy. I even opened that up a little bit because that can sit a little too closed. But there, that's it. And if you let that dry, pinching that every half an hour to an hour or something, it's just going to form to that knife. Now, it's not made for this knife in particular. It is made for an arte, so it will fit. Or it's even made for a knife handle that I know can accept that. So I'm going to get that out of there and just let it dry, and they can wet form it on their own, or form it on their own, or it will just form over time. But that's what you can do. Just let it sit overnight. Then for the second night, pull it out, let it completely dry, wet forming as you need to. You just want to train that leather to take that, okay? But that's it. That's what you're going to end up with. I hope you got something out of this. This sheath, is going to sell for quite a bit. So if you're capable of making this, you can save yourself some money. Or the tools it takes to buy it. If you were to buy like 2 or 3 of my sheaths, the tools and the leather would pay for itself. So, from other sheath makers or whatever. Plus you have the thing that I think doesn't have any value to it, which is, or any money you can put on it, which is, you made it yourself. You carry it out in the woods, and this is mine. That's why I think knife makers first get into knife making, so they can say that. So anyway, that's it. I appreciate you guys paying attention. I hope this has gotten you something that you can use. And check out me on Facebook, Diamond Industries. Look for me on Blade Forums there. And I wish you all the best of luck and Godspeed out there, all right?